Without saying anything, I just want you to look at that, and if something comes to mind to finish those words up, just kind of keep that in mind, how you would finish each of those words, at first glance. So I started last week with talking about happiness, the how of happiness, and I'm going to continue this week, and it is a little advertisement for the class that's going to be coming in September, because it's going to be on the how of happiness. But just to recap a little bit from last week, we all think of things that we think are going to make us happy. Right? We think, maybe a new job would make us happy, maybe a bigger house would make us happy, another car would make us happy, a spouse that's a little bit nicer would make us happy, or, whatever is going to make us happy. But it's incredible, because most of the things that we believe are going to make us happy do not really make us happy. If they make us any more happier, it's a very little amount, and it's for a very little amount of time. And when we talk about happiness, we think about, and I love thinking about all the things that, were taught years ago, like, teachings of Jesus, Buddha, everything, and they kind of got lost along the way, or not followed, or whatever. They, were thought not to be, something that we need to do, or whatever. How Jesus did miracles by touch and everything, that's like poo-pooed. Oh my God, that's not going to happen. Now, all of a sudden, in medicine, we have therapeutic touch. They're going back to Reiki, they're going back to acupuncture, all the things from the past that, they were done, and then there was a time that it wasn't believed in. Now it's coming back to see the worth of everything. So thinking about all the teachings that Jesus taught us, what were they all about? What did he come to teach us? Love? Exactly. How to live in love. And when you live in love, what are you? You're happy, right? Peace, and he said, I bring peace. I bring you peace beyond understanding. And what I want to first of all say is, when I talk about happiness, I don't mean like a smiley face. I chose this to wear today, mainly because I like it, it's new, but I picked it out because it's bright and it's cheery, and, it just sings happiness, basically. But, we're not talking about a smiley face when we're talking about happiness. We're not talking about always having to be, bubbly and in a positive mood and stuff, even though that's part of it. That's part of it. But that's not necessarily happiness in the whole, the whole of happiness. So when I talk about happiness, I want everyone to know it's more talking about well-being. And well-being is all-encompassing. You can go by PERMA, by the words PERMA. Positive emotion, which is your happiness. Yeah, you have positive emotion. You're thinking more positively. You have more positive emotion than negative. But it's also engagement. Engagement in life. Relationships. It's loving relationships. It's giving. It's cultivating those relationships. It's meaning. It's finding the meaning in life. Not just living for ourselves and bringing all these things together, and it's achievement, following our purpose, achieving our goals. So all of those things, when you think about that, that's all those things that Jesus taught us, isn't it? He taught us all those things. So we talked last week about gratitude and positive thinking. Right? How important it is to live an attitude of gratitude and to think, instead of thinking pessimistically, thinking optimistically. Which thinking optimistically, we figured out what is thinking optimistically, but having faith. When you think optimistically, you have faith in something that you want to happen. So, this week I'm going to talk about the route to happiness or well-being. Is stop comparing yourself to other people and start helping them. So, and I know last week when I said about, the key to happiness or the key to well-being, but he said right away is helping other people, giving yourself to other people. So, comparing and other people. Now, is this did Jesus teach us that? Not compare ourselves to other people and to help other people? Okay, do you know of any times when he showed us to do that? Right. Okay. Let's think about, let's see, how do I want to say this?
Well, was it Martha and Mary when he was in a home, and I forget which one it was doing all the serving, and the other one was sitting at the feet of Jesus.
Okay.
She said, Master, tell her to help me. I forget which one it was.
Okay.
Tell her to help me serve more, and
And that's an excellent, you know what, that's an excellent, you know what, all these stories, when you look at all these stories and you all boil them down, they have to do with happiness, well-being, and peace, and the meaning of life. That one is exactly as far as what's more important. What's more important in life? Be doing busy and doing things, or actually, growing, being social.
Well, of course he believed in giving, but he believed in teaching someone to fish instead of giving them a fish. And he was a carpenter.
Right.
And do something to make something of your life and help people, and not so much, build a house to make money, but to build out the house of money.
Exactly. Okay, Galatians 6 says, "Let everyone be sure to do his very best, for then he will have the personal satisfaction of work well done, and won't need to compare himself with someone else." If we do our own work and just focus on doing our best, why do we want to compare ourselves to anybody else? Think about that. Why do we feel the need to compare ourselves to anybody else? So what does comparing ourselves to other people do?
It leads into judgments. I mean, it does.
It does. Envy, right. Envy, it can be, and a lot of people will say, well, don't compare yourself to somebody better because it makes you feel worse. But if you compare yourself to someone lower, it'll make you feel better, right? So, you've heard that already, right? Right? It's a matter of who you compare yourself to. So, and I've heard that plenty of times, So, but think about it. When you compare yourself to somebody better, there's always going to be somebody that has more than you or whatever. So it goes to envy, to, lower self-esteem. Why him? Why not me?
But things aren't always what they appear. Like a lot of people will say, I want to be a rock star. But, 80% of rock stars overdose on drugs or kill themselves.
They're not.
They have it all. And
the illusion of happiness. The illusion of happiness. Exactly. So what happens when we compare ourselves to somebody less?
It builds our ego.
It builds your ego. Yeah, it builds your ego. Maria.
Well, if you compare us to other people, it means, we have fear to be what we should be. We just have a wall, and we don't grow because we are compared. I cannot be more because she is or he is already, so I cannot be at the same level because of I am fear.
Do you know what? And you said the one perfect thing, comparison builds walls, right? In any instant that we look at, it builds a wall. When we look at those lower than ourselves, we might feel guilty because we have more, or we build a wall because we say they're less than us. And that's how we start judging, those things. Because when we get into comparison with somebody less, that's when we start judging. Exactly. We build walls, whether we compare somebody better than us or even less than us. When we compare somebody different than us, it's building a wall. And how can any walls lead to any kind of well-being or happiness? No, it can't. Jesus taught us to see people the same way. We're all brothers, we're all sisters, we're all the same way. So, okay, that's self-comparison. Don't compare it to other people. Now, how about when some problem comes up or whatever? When we think about a problem, or when something comes up into our lives and we try to figure it out. Okay, how do we go about doing that?
intellectual look at the situation and think you have all the answers and,
Okay.
round and round on the merry-go-round.
When something big happens in your life, does anybody ever toss it in their head over and over and over and over and over again? No. Huh?
Look for all possibilities.
Okay, and if you look for all possibilities, but that's a little bit different sometimes than rumination, isn't it? When we ruminate, and why did this happen to me? How could this happen? Right? And many people do that. And, we ruminate and we go back, all the time. I can't believe they did this. Why did this happen? What are we going to do about it? And people actually think that by ruminating or by thinking it over and over and over again, they gain insight.
But that's only if it's bad.
It's
Good occurrence, you don't do that.
okay. Well, that's not really rumination. Okay, there's a difference, I think, between rumination, contemplation, and meditation. Okay, think about it. Meditate. What happens in meditation?
You get clear, you get clear vision if you're in meditation long enough.
You go within.
Sure.
You go within and you listen for the answer. Rumination usually is up here and looking out there and going over and over and over again. Rumination is mostly in the physical. Meditation is going within to the inside. Insight. Maria.
When we think too much about to find a solution, so we want to control more the problem gets bigger and bigger. And then if you realize, okay, nothing I can solve at this moment, we see where I go, and maybe that little by little it's solved.
And so, okay, and so you're saying about looking for the answer.
Sometimes you think so much you don't find the answer. There's no answer today or tomorrow. But if you just try to now just let it go, nothing I can do right now. It's, I'm looking for every single way to solve, but it's not solving. So maybe I just, okay, that's it. I let it go, and maybe somehow, because we're not controlling that problem.
Perfect. Letting it go. Asking how important is this thing going to be in a year from now, in a week from now, letting it go. There's so many things, when we talk about happiness and well-being, and it's an all big, now you can go on the internet and search everything, and everybody's onto the bandwagon of happiness and well-being, and there are all these new things. They're not new things. They're old things. They're old things that were taught years ago, being brought back in a different way. And it's incredible because all those things that are being taught now, all those things that are being said now, Jesus taught us years and years, 2,000 years ago, over 2,000 years ago. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Jesus Christ. Basically, the Bible tells us, don't ruminate. Don't ruminate, but let it go. The key to happiness is all there. We don't have to read any more books. We don't have to read any more books. We don't have to take any more courses. We don't have to do anything. But all we got to do is follow what Jesus taught us. It's all there. It's all there when you look. Number one is awareness. Awareness of what we're doing. So I said the second thing what we're going to talk about today is don't compare to each other, don't worry, don't ruminate. But what else? Give to others. Okay, give to others. What does giving to others do? It brings you joy. And you know what? It's incredible because sometimes people will ask you for a favor. Will you drive me here or there or whatever? And it's really hard to fit in your schedule. And you feel like, oh man, I really don't want to do this. But studies showed that people that will do it several months down the line, they're happier. They're happier because they took the time to do a kindness for somebody else. There's so much to be said about kindness. It's incredible. And we talked about the gift of giving. There was a person that made a suggestion. She said she didn't know what to give for Christmas one year, and she looked and looked and looked, and then she saw this website that it was a donor site for teachers would put on there what they needed for their classroom. People would put on special things that they need. So what this lady did was, for everybody in her family, she bought a gift card so that they could go on that website and they could decide where they wanted to give their gift. So it was like a double giving. She gave the gift of giving. Then that person could go and give the gift of giving. And from whatever happened there, those teachers, whoever got that, can give the gift of giving to those kids. So it's almost like a pay it forward, but it's in a different kind of way, is giving the gift of giving. And I thought about that, when we tithe to a lot of different places, we do that. We tithe to organizations so that they can give. And then whatever they give, those people in return will feel gracious and grateful, and they will give too. And think about the cycle of that, the cycle of giving. It's incredible. So what can we give on a daily basis? And, think about, we're so wrapped up into our daily lives and the busyness and everything, how we don't take time to just give a little smile, give opening a door, give whatever we can give. In Corinthians it says, now I say this, he who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and he who sows bountifully will reap bountifully. Each one must do just as he has proposed in his heart, not grudgingly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that always, having all sufficiency in everything, you may have an abundance for every good deed. So giving, there's so many rewards in giving. It's so easy to give. But it's a matter of we get wrapped up in everything that we have to do, and we forget. But long-lasting well-being depends on how much we give. We can never have long-lasting well-being, or happiness, I don't believe, unless we're givers. We have to be givers. I like, and I'm a story thing, but it was a poor boy was selling goods from one door to another to pay for his studies. One day he found that he only had one dime left and he was hungry. While approaching the next house, he decided to ask for a meal. But when a young woman opened the door, he only dared to ask for a glass of water. She looked at him and understood that probably the boy was hungry, so she brought him a large glass of milk. He drank it and then asked how much he owed her. The woman replied, "You don't owe me anything. Mother taught me never to accept pay for a kindness." "Then I thank you from the bottom of my heart," he said, and felt that he was stronger, not only physically, but his faith in God had grown as well. This boy's name was Howard Kelly. Many years had passed. One day that woman became seriously ill. Local doctors could not help her. Therefore, they sent her to the big city where her rare disease would be studied by specialists. Dr. Howard Kelly was called in for consultation. When he entered her room in the hospital, he immediately recognized her as the woman who showed him the kindness when he was poor. The doctor was determined to do his best to help her recover from her disease. The struggle was long, but together they managed to overcome her illness. After some time, the woman received a bill for her treatment. She was worried about the amount to pay would be so significant that she would have to spend the rest of her life to pay for it. Finally, the woman looked at the bill. She noticed words that were written on the side of the bill. The words were, "Paid in full with a glass of milk." We never know how we touch other people with our kindness. We never know how it's going to come around. But just know in your heart that every time we do something, it's going to be huge. It's going to make a difference. And, I do like studies. I do like studies. They've done studies on kindness about how it affects people. Even watching acts of kindness. People don't even have to receive those acts of kindness, but they have to watch those acts of kindness. Just reading this story has changed everyone in this room. everyone was touched by this act of kindness and how that went around. So just hearing that story, just seeing that story, can you imagine what doing it gives me goosebumps. Can you imagine what doing it is going to do? And this is the kind of happiness that we're talking about. Not that, oh, yeah, life is great, even though that's cool too. But, you know, it's that inner feeling of joy. It's that inner feeling of peace and well-being.
While we're on the subject, I want to give you thanks, and then we need to give thanks is another way to give it. Give you thanks for the service you did for Jean. It was incredible. And I want to thank everybody who attended and everybody who couldn't attend for their prayers in the last 6 years. She was incredible. You know,
She was.
singing. In the end, I feel she won. She did because, and your service was just amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for that. And yeah, before you came in, and I'll talk to you, before you came in, we did mention about the hospice and, you know, different things. So yeah, we remembered Jean before you came in. So and thanks for sharing that. But it's an act of giving. And you know what? That was a joy for me because it was an act that I could give the last thing. You know, it's the last giving of somebody, you know, that left this physical world. So, you know, and we talked about, you know, we had our kindness week, and you know, we did things, but it's a matter of continuing that. When if each person leaves this room and starts doing random acts of kindness this week, and you know, we're going to have in the class, we're going to do things. I have exercises and easy things to do, but you'll find that as you do these different, simple, easy things, your sense of well-being, your sense of inner happiness, that peace, that joy, you'll see that increase, because it's incredible when we start actually living what we're learning. That's where the difference comes. It's actually living what we're learning. You know, being kind, giving. You know, I have another story about comparing, and but
I'd like to say something. It is correct that Jean donated the Christmas tree that we have. Is that true? If she didn't want to be known? Okay, we said no.
Jean did lots of things.
Well, I knew that in private, and I wasn't able to make her service. And I was thinking about it, you know, and I was just thinking about Jean and how she touched so many of us. And and also about Angel Days. I was thinking about Angel Days and how our Christmas tree has angels all over it, and how Kimberly just is all about angels. And Kimberly's always making me angels out of clay and whatever, and I know that it meant a lot to Jean to work with clay. Okay, and you know, this was something that Kimberly did, and I thought, you know, I would like to, for Christmas, make an ornament, and I wanted to make it for Jean, okay, but as an angel, but I thought, you know, this wouldn't be right, because it wouldn't be wrong, but there are many people who have come to Unity, and their essence, their angelness,
Yeah.
remains with us and means so much to us. And so for Christmas, I would like to make an ornament, and the nature of it will be for all the angels who, you know, have done so much for Unity.
Yeah.
And
that's
love remains
that's awesome. Yep.
as a gift.
Yeah.
And then if you turn it over on the back, the ornament will say, this ornament was inspired by the love given by Jean Moses.
That's awesome. Thank you. That's awesome.
So
Yeah. Cool. We'll be looking forward to that. That's awesome. One other. Do you know what? And I'm getting to the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a story, and what I want you to do is think about this story and your own life on something, maybe a special day or whatever, that made you happy in a way that you never realized that it made you happy. And it's called a happy day. As an adult, there have been many times when I said to myself, this is such a wonderful moment. I don't ever want to forget it. At those times, I take a mental snapshot of that moment and commit myself to remembering it. As I write this, several of those moments come to mind, but one of my happiest moments is of a day in my life that happened when I was too young to be introspective. I simply remember it because of the total happiness I felt. In the greater scheme of things, that day was not very special. It was our second grade class picnic. I recall that we wore play clothes. That meant that a little girl could wear pants. In those days, we were required to wear dresses in the school days. I remember that too. We each took a sack lunch, and we were taken by bus to a local park where we played. On the way home, I got off the bus at the corner block from my home, and a few blocks before the bus reached. On the way home, I got off the bus at the corner a block from my home, and a few blocks before the bus reached the school. Nobody was home when I got there, so I decided to clean up the living room to surprise my mommy. Those are the unremarkable details of that memorable day. So why do I remember that day so much better and more fondly than many other days of my childhood? When I think about it now as an adult, I can be introspective about it and understand some reasons why it was so special to me. First, on that day, I overcame fear and truly enjoyed playing at the park. Before the day was out, I was confident about climbing to the heights of the sliding board and soaring down, and about swinging on the huge swings, two things I had always been timid about before. Because of my new confidence and my ability to do what the other children was doing, I had acceptance of them instead of judging them. When my teacher told the bus driver to let me off near my house, I experienced the respect of her knowing that I was self-reliant enough to go home alone. When I got home, I made myself useful by cleaning the living room and consequently received something all children covet, my mother's praise. Those were the simple elements that made me happy on that bright day 60 years ago. I believe those are pretty much the same things that make me happy today. And think about it. It was no huge, roller coaster ride, day at the beach, whatever. The thing that sticks in this lady's mind is something that she, overcame her fear. She increased her self-confidence. She had fun with her other friends. She socialized. She saw them in a different way. She did something for somebody else, and she accepted that praise. Those are all things that we're teaching are important for happiness and well-being. It doesn't matter, the trips, the roller coaster rides or whatever. That's awesome. And don't get me wrong, that's awesome. But that isn't sustainable happiness and well-being. Happiness and well-being is coming from here. It's coming from those things inside. And all those things inside are what Jesus taught us. So, I want to take these thoughts into prayer and meditation and hold on to those things, that truly, truly bring us happiness. We might not say at the time, oh, wow, this is great, this is wonderful. But down deep, it really, truly brings happiness and well-being. So I invite you to sit in your seat, get comfortable. Just feel the seat supporting your body. Feel the floor supporting your feet. Take a deep breath in. Breathe in the energy of the room. Feel the presence of those present. And also feel the presence of those that aren't here physically present, but who we know are here spiritually. helping us along our path. As we feel that energy, as we feel that sense of well-being, I invite you to take time and go back into your past, and also find a day that was very memorable to you. A time when you know you were truly living from your Christ essence. A time when you loved unconditionally. When you gave your very best. When you used your God-given talents. A day that you showed courage and overcame fear. A day when you showed empathy and realized that someone else wasn't different from you, and you were able to love that person instead of judge. Think of a day when you were overwhelmed with gratitude, not for any particular thing, but just for life in general. Think of a time when you stopped asking why me, and turned it over to God and said, I have faith. I know that all good things happen. All good things will come from this. Hold on to those times and feel the happiness and well-being overwhelm you. Feel that sense of joy, that sense of peace, that sense of happiness. Know in your heart that this is true well-being. This is the peace that Jesus promised to bring, the peace that passes all understanding. And know that all we need to do is make a commitment to leave this room and practice these things. Practice love, practice acts of kindness, practice turning things over to God, practice acceptance, practice seeing the joy in life, and see how our life turns around, and experience that peace. I invite you to hold on to these feelings, and as you come back into the room, make a commitment to practice what we've taught and feel that peace. And so it is. Amen.